Good to see you again. You're watching ARIRANG News. It's 4 p.m. here in Seoul, and I'm Laah Hyun-kyung. Our top story this afternoon, North Korea says it no longer sees the point in holding talks on giving up its nuclear ambitions. But efforts to resume the stalled six-party nuclear talks continue. Connie Kim reports.
North Korea has reiterated it has no interest in coming back to the negotiating table to discuss its denuclearization. An official from North Korea's mission to the United Nations told Voice of America that the regime will not give up its nuclear arsenal until every other country in the world has also disarmed. The official, who asked not to be named, added that Pyongyang has lost interest and sees no need in rejoining the long-stalled six-party talks. The multilateral talks aimed at dismantling North Korea's nuclear program involve the two Koreas, the U.S., China, Russia, and Japan, but haven't been held since late 2008, when Pyongyang walked out and declared the process dead. There had been speculation that Washington might try to initiate talks with North Korea if it makes a breakthrough in its ongoing multilateral nuclear talks with Iran. Responding to the North Korean official's comments, the U.S. State Department restated its stance that the regime should abandon its nuclear weapons and all existing nuclear programs based on multiple UN Security Council resolutions. It also reiterated that it will not recognize North Korea as a nuclear state and called on the regime to refrain from threatening peace and security in the region. Despite North Korea's comments, efforts to resume the six-party talks continue. Sung Kim, the U.S. Special Representative for North Korea policy, will meet with his Russian counterpart Igor Morgulov in Moscow on Wednesday to discuss Pyongyang's nuclear issues. Connie Kim, ARIRANG News.
A former U.S. nuclear negotiator says it will be difficult for the Obama administration to draw up a new nuclear deal with North Korea. Speaking at a meeting hosted by U.S. website 38 North, Robert Gallucci said even if the U.S. president can reach a nuclear agreement with Iran, it will be hard to achieve one with Pyongyang. He said senior officials in nuclear talks with Tehran also deal with North Korea's nuclear programs, pointing out that the officials can't have too many agendas on their plate at once. He said striking deals with both countries is not impossible, but the prospects aren't bright because it's such a difficult task. Some background information on Gallucci. He is the person credited with defusing the first North Korean nuclear crisis by negotiating the 1994 agreed framework deal with Pyongyang. And no breakthrough has been made yet on the Iran nuclear talks. The six world powers and Iran are working overtime to try and come up with any sort of agreement after its self-imposed deadline expired Tuesday. They are said to have edged toward a deal, but some crucial details still remain on hold. Son Jung-in has more.
Foreign ministers from six world powers and Iran negotiated past the March 31st deadline without reaching a breakthrough on an outline accord on Tehran's nuclear program. The U.S. State Department assessed that enough progress had been made during the week-long talks in Switzerland, but added there were still unresolved issues which forced the parties to extend their self-imposed deadline by an extra day. Iran's senior negotiator said he was willing to talk until they come to a tangible agreement.
Sanction relief issue has been resolved, not today or yesterday. We have had long discussions on this, but there are issues which are related to sanctions, which are still under consideration.
The so-called P5+1, the U.S., Britain, France, China, and Russia plus Germany are seeking to block Iran from building nuclear weapons for at least a decade while easing international sanctions gradually. Iran, which insists it only wants to use nuclear technology for peaceful civilian purposes, wants sanctions lifted quickly as they have been strangling its economy. The two sides are also at odds over the fate of Iran's stockpiles of enriched uranium. The U.S. says it's willing to continue until all sides arrive at a workable preliminary political agreement, which can be used as the basis of a comprehensive nuclear deal in 3 months' time. Sources say the extension of the deadline may signify the prospect of achieving a potentially historic deal in the hours to come. Son Jung-in, ARIRANG News.
Lufthansa has confirmed that co-pilot Andreas Lubitz had in fact alerted its training school of his fight with severe depression in the past. In a statement, the German airliner said the notification had come in 2009 when Lubitz had resumed training. This latest information follows statements by Düsseldorf state prosecutors who confirmed the 27-year-old was treated for suicidal tendencies before getting his pilot license. The development could lead to new criticism against Lufthansa's screening process, as its CEO last week had said he knew of no reason why the co-pilot of subsidiary Germanwings would have deliberately crashed his plane into the French Alps, killing all 150 people on board. And in the wake of the tragic Germanwings crash, many airlines are thinking about implementing a two-person cockpit rule to prevent similar tragedies from happening again. Korean Airlines are following suit, and the rule will be in effect on all carriers soon. Our Kim Hyun-bin has this story.
In Korea, the latest Germanwings incident prompted the nation's transport ministry to release an official notice, urging local airliners to implement the two-person cockpit rule. Out of the 7 local airliners, only 2, Korean Air and Jeju Air, had been practicing the two-person cockpit rule before the Germanwings crash.
Korean Air has implemented the two-person cockpit rule since April of 2014 to enhance flight safety measures.
Other companies are now adopting the policy.
We will implement the measure and have 2 people in the cockpit at all times. If one of the pilot leaves the room, a flight attendant will take his place.
In addition to the two-person cockpit rule, airliners have also started looking more carefully at the mental health of their pilots. German prosecutors have confirmed that the Germanwings co-pilot, Andreas Lubitz, was treated for suicidal tendencies before getting his pilot's license. Lufthansa has now admitted that Lubitz told their training school about his bout with depression. However, the German airliner says Lubitz passed the annual recertification exam and was deemed physically fit to fly without restrictions. But the airliner noted that the test did not cover mental health. What measures are local airliners taking to check a pilot's mental status?
Under the domestic aviation law, pilots need to receive a physical and mental health examination at least once a year. We have been operating a medical center to examine our pilots' health and mental status.
Meanwhile, most Korean airlines have now put the two-person rule into effect. However, Asiana Airlines and its subsidiary, Air Busan, will adopt the measure early this month. Kim Hyun-bin, ARIRANG News.
Korea's consumer prices grew at the slowest pace in nearly 16 years last month, while posting near 0% growth for the 4th consecutive month. The latest data raises one of the biggest warning flags yet about increasing deflationary pressures. Hwang Ji-hye has the details.
Korea's inflation has slumped to its slowest pace since July 1999. Data from Statistics Korea shows consumer prices grew a mere 0.4% last month from a year ago, remaining in the 0% range for the 4th straight month. If we exclude tobacco prices, which doubled recently under the government's tough new anti-smoking stance, the inflation rate would have actually been below 0. The finance ministry says the sharp decline in global oil prices over the past year contributed to the 16-year record low. It added that the drop in oil prices also held related petroleum products and utility prices down. While the ministry says core inflation, which excludes volatile oil and agricultural products, was up 2.1% from a year ago, concerns continue to mount over rising deflationary risks. That follows disappointing production in the mining and manufacturing sectors, which dropped nearly 5% in February from the previous year. And while output across all industries rebounded by 2.5% from a month ago in February, the rise stemmed from temporary factors like the low base effect a month earlier and the Lunar New Year holiday, pointing to a still fragile recovery momentum. Given that, experts say it's likely the central bank will lower its growth forecast of 3.4% for this year when it releases its new outlook next week. Hwang Jie, ARIRANG News.
Recent data shows that the salary gap between executive-level officials and their employees has widened in Korea. The biggest gap has one CEO making 142 times the salary of an average worker. Kim Min-ji tells us more.
It's no surprise there is a significant difference in the salaries earned by company CEOs and employees. But how wide is that gap in Korea? Market researcher Evan Guide says executive salaries at the nation's top 30 companies by market cap exceed the average employee income by as much as 142 times. The company with the highest discrepancy is Samsung Electronics. CEO Shin Jong-gun's annual salary came to over $13 million last year, more than double from a year ago. The average Samsung employee salary was almost $110,000. Second on the list was Hyundai Steel. Jung Mong-gu, chairman of Hyundai Group, pocketed more than $10 million in wage and severance pay from the affiliate, while employees earned an average of about $80,000, which is 133 times less. Other companies with large discrepancies include LG Chem, Hyundai Motor, and POSCO. On average, CEO incomes were almost 36 times higher than average employee salaries. The findings come after the Financial Supervisory Service revised a regulation in 2013 that requires companies to reveal the salary details of executives who earn more than $450,000 annually. Kim Min-ji, ARIRANG News.
Korea's presidential office says Seoul will make sure its share and role within the China-led Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank will work in its favor. Confirming that the bank's application period ended on Tuesday, President Park's senior economic secretary said countries that have agreed to join the AIIB will soon start discussing their share in the bank and its management. Korean authorities will also ensure the AIIB membership supports President Park's vision for a Northeast Asia Development Bank designed to aid North Korea with economic development if the country were to give up its nuclear programs. South Korea's participation in China's initiative is expected to create more development opportunities in North Korea. Now turning to efforts to resolve the decades-long deficit in Korea's public pension system, with the reform drive topping the political agenda this week. President Park Geun-hye has been stressing the need to create a sustainable retirement system for public servants, but the political discord at the National Assembly continues. Park Ji-won reports.
Korea's pension plan for public servants has been in deficit since the mid-1990s, with shortages filled by taxes. To address this pressing matter, President Park Geun-hye, speaking at Tuesday's cabinet meeting, called on the National Assembly to urgently address these public servant pension reforms for the future of the country.
국회가 시한 내에 이 연금 개혁을 마무리 짓지 못하면 내년부터는 매일 100억 원씩 연간 3조 7천억 원의 세금이 들어가야 하고.
President Park stressed that these reforms should be carried out in a way that efficiently reduces the government budget, but also demonstrates fairness and sustainability to Koreans. Both political parties previously agreed to pass the reform plan at the full assembly on May 2nd. However, on Tuesday, they failed to form a working group for negotiations on the reforms.
The main opposition has been saying that they have strengths in economic affairs. But I'd like to ask them how they can say such things when they drag on and oppose the pension reforms.
It is unacceptable that the government tries to get through the reforms with the ruling party leading the process, with a limited deadline just like a military operation. The reforms should be proactively led by the government, like labor management negotiations.
Meanwhile, public sector unions said they will not participate at the negotiating table if the May 2nd deadline is upheld. Park Ji-won, ARIRANG News.
The global wireless power industry is forecast to expand by a whopping 4,000% over the next decade. Market tracker IHS says manufacturers produced 55 million wireless power receivers last year, and the figure is expected to jump to 2 billion units by the year 2024. Analysts say the leap is being led by the new built-in wireless charging function on Samsung's flagship phones, the Galaxy S6 and S6 Edge. They add wireless charging will likely spread to wearable devices and possibly the next iPhone model. Total sales of wireless chargers are expected to reach $1.7 billion this year and increase around $1.5 billion every year for the next 10 years.
Bringing you the fresh updates from stories breaking in Korea and abroad. We give you a bigger and better picture of the world. Join Laah Hyun-kyung live from Seoul. Every weekday, only on ARIRANG.
Korea has slammed Japan for its attempts to push the candidacies of some highly controversial industrial sites. The sites in question are where many Koreans were forced to work under Japan's colonial rule in the early 1900s. Hwang Sung-hee reports.
Korea has reiterated its opposition to the possible listing of a group of Japanese industrial facilities on the UNESCO World Heritage List. Seoul's foreign ministry said Tuesday that the Meiji industrial sites, where tens of thousands of Koreans were forced to work under Japanese rule in the early 1900s, should not be recognized as intangible cultural assets.
To list these facilities, with their painful history of forced labor for Koreans under Japan's colonial rule, as a World Heritage Site does not correspond with the discipline and purpose of UNESCO.
However, there are reports that the International Council on Monuments and Sites, or ICOMOS, said Japan's industrial facilities are qualified as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, upping Tokyo's chances. ICOMOS, a non-government advisory body for UNESCO, held 2 rounds of meetings last December and this month to review the applications for new World Heritage listings. For Japan, the 28 sites, mainly located in Kyushu, are proud relics from its Meiji Industrial Revolution. For Korea, they are painful reminders of Japan's colonial rule. The final verdict will be released at the 39th session of the World Heritage Committee in Germany this summer. 21 member countries, including Korea and Japan, will vote on the issue. The sites need at least 2/3 of the votes to be approved. And until then, the foreign ministry here in Seoul says it will continue its efforts to prevent the Japanese sites from receiving UNESCO recognition. Hwang Sung-hee, ARIRANG News.
About a year ago, Korean President Park Geun-hye laid out her reunification policy in the German city of Dresden, calling it the Dresden Declaration. Following that, the city is now home to a park called Korean Plaza, reflecting strong diplomatic ties between Seoul and Berlin, which date back more than 130 years. Our Kwon So-ah reports.
Korea's got a new park, but it's over 8,000 kilometers away in the German city of Dresden. A year ago, President Park Geun-hye came to this city and delivered plans for a reunification of the two Koreas. Now, a public space in downtown Dresden has been officially named Korean Plaza.
Well, basically it was a consequence of the visit of President Park Geun-hye to Dresden and her Dresden Declaration. And later on, it seems that the impetus created by her visit has convinced the public and the politicians there that they should, as a sign of sympathy for Korea, this Korean Plaza can serve as a reminder and as an opportunity to meet and to keep in mind that Korea is a divided country and to keep alive the hope that Korea will be unified, as the Dresden people did not give up hope, and they succeeded and were successful in getting unification.
So other than contributing to this project, the Korean Plaza, in what other ways has President Park's declaration impacted the city?
You know, Germany now is celebrating 25 years of unification. And obviously, the declaration of President Park found a lot of sympathy amongst Germans. Germany shares the history of a divided country with Korea, And certainly sympathy for the future of a Korean unification has been emphasized by the declaration, and the sympathy in the German population certainly is much on the side of South Korea to have a successful unification in the near future.
So how about the other way around? What do you think of having a symbol of Dresden or Berlin or another German city on Korean soil?
Obviously, we would very much welcome another symbol on Korean soil, but I see here in Seoul particularly, but not only in Seoul, also in other parts of the country, I see a lot of German symbols. For example, you have here a piece of the Berlin Wall in Seoul. There is the German village in Namhae, which I have personally visited, which is a very nice place. And walking around in Seoul, you see a lot of places which carry German names.
The deputy ambassador says that places like the Korean Plaza may attract more Korean tourists, leading to economic benefits as well as improving the already good ties between the two countries. Kwon So-ah, ARIRANG News.
In cultural news, there are plenty of concerts being offered in the capital, and many of them have unique themes. Our Im Yoon-hee has this report on 2 concerts that will satisfy your craving for music and food.
A sip of traditional tea goes perfectly with a bite of Korean rice cake, tteok. This looks like just another city cafe, but it's actually a concert experience. At 11 a.m. on the last Wednesday of each month, the National Kugak Center puts on a fusion show, combining jazz saxophone with the traditional sounds of Korea's kugak.
They don't even use paper cups, they use beautiful dishes, and the servers are even dressed in hanboks, making it such a luxurious experience.
The audience is made up of many housewives, and typically these women think of this as their personal time. They leave feeling very satisfied with the experience.
But across the river, the beat of samulnori, another traditional Korean musical experience, entertains a dining audience. The name of the concert, Chami, is Jeju dialect for fun. The destination, a popular special event location up near the mountains that also lures many visitors.
The weather is nice and the air is so refreshing here. I was able to bring my mother and we both really enjoyed it.
The performance, hosted by the Sejong Center, takes place at the historical Samcheongak Center in Seoul. The area is perfect for a traditional Korean adventure. Im Yoon-hee, ARIRANG News.
Welcome back. I'm Michelle Park here with the latest weather forecast. We've been under foggy and cloudy conditions today, but skies are expected to clear up as the day continues on. Now, it looks like the rain washed away all of yesterday's fine dust particles, putting the air quality at normal level. It's still a bit windy though, but milder temperatures are expected throughout the day. Now, in fact, it's expected to be 3 to 4 degrees higher than yesterday, but as you've probably noticed, the mornings and nights are still very chilly, so make sure to have something extra to keep you warm. Now, with that in mind, let's have a look at the readings for today. So it'll peak up to 18 this afternoon. Meanwhile, the southern regions such as Gwangju and Busan will top to 22 and 15 degrees. Moving over to other regions, Jeju Island gets up to 19, Dokdo at 8, while Nangkeugang tops to 5 degrees. Well, that's all for now, Michelle Park, and here's a look at the weather conditions around the world.
And that brings us to the end of our newscast. I'm Laah Hyun-kyung in Seoul. Thanks for watching. We'll be back with all of that and more at 6 p.m. Korea time.